mention briefly, okay? Here's the next story we're going to talk about. And boy, none of you better spoil this in chat, okay? No spoilerinos. Okay? So as many of you may or may not know, we talked about this briefly last week. The founder of CashApp, I believe, was stabbed to death in San Francisco. And a lot of people had things to say about it. A lot of people had things to say and judgments to pass. Let's hear a few of them talk about this horrific tragedy.
I didn't know Bob Lee, but I know many people who knew him, and I was getting texts. And obviously, we feel really bad for him, his whole family, his kids, his father, his coworkers, friends. We don't know exactly what happened yet, but I think we suspect, and I would bet dollars to dimes, that this story is very similar to a case we had in LA recently, the Brianna Kupfer case, where a young woman was basically stabbed for no reason by a psychotic homeless person who had been through the revolving door of the jail and criminal justice system, who could have been locked up, who was arrested multiple times, but was not kept locked up because of this push for...
So based on no evidence whatsoever, this case is the same as that case. Okay, I'm following you, my guy. Let's go. Let's keep going.
Decarceration. And you can argue that maybe it'd be better for that person to be in mandatory treatment or in maybe a mental asylum. But this idea of just releasing these people onto the street, I just think is an outrageous abdication of responsibility by our elected officials.
Okay, so to sum up so far, this murder case is the same as a different murder case based on no evidence whatsoever. And not only that, but you can then make the additional leap that it is directly attributable towards de-incarceral policies. Okay, I'm following you. You got a whole lot of nothing so far, but a whole lot of assumptions. Let's keep going, bud.
Who run the criminal justice system, who pass our laws. And the thing I just wish is that I could lock for 24 hours the people like our supervisors or our governor or the people who basically make these laws or the people who are pushing for decarceration of these violent offenders by these nonprofits. I wish I could lock them up in a room for 24 hours with the people that they think are safe to release on our streets. Let's see if they really would take that test. Because it seems to me that these elected leaders and these nonprofits who are pushing for these outcomes, they are setting loose on us a predatory, criminal, or psychotic element that jeopardizes our safety and makes these cities unlivable.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You want to put the officials and the people who decide who to release on cashless bail onto the streets in a cell with the people that they would otherwise release. Because you think that the standard of the person being released is not a threat to themselves or others isn't one that is considered when they release people suspected of crimes. Okay, I'm following you. So far, you got a whole lot of assumptions, no evidence whatsoever, and your proposed solution is a hypothetical in which people whose job it is and who advocate for suspects who are deemed safe for themselves and the communities would be locked up with those advocates and officials. Okay. Okay.
And we should not tolerate that. And quite frankly, the responsibility goes beyond those elected leaders. It goes to all the voters as well, because we keep putting up with this. And where was our governor when this happened? He was in Florida doing some sing-along at some high school where he was trolling Ron DeSantis because DeSantis had taken on DEI at that school.
Okay, so Gavin Newsom should be held responsible for this as well, because he was in a different state when a random murder occurred somewhere in his state. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay.
So that's where Newsom was, and he's extremely popular in
Fighting
California.
culture wars instead of saving
Fighting
people.
culture wars in a distant state.
Big Badal. I don't know what YBE drama is, so.
Instead of basically fixing the criminal justice system in California, it's even worse than that because he's actually shut down 2 prisons and released lots of people. So where is the push for criminal justice reform in California and protecting the citizenry? Until the voters in San Francisco and California start demanding this, there's never going to be a change.
And at the same time,
start listening to Gary Tan.
Yeah.
Just vote for whoever the Gary Tan tells you to vote for. Okay.
I think it's probably a good. I can't disagree.
I didn't know.
But by the way, if you don't know who Gary Tan is, apparently he's the managing partner and co-founder of Initialized Capital. And in case you were wondering who all these people were, they're all venture capitalists. They're the ghouls who live in San Francisco and make it unlivable for everybody else. Okay? But, you know, let's keep going. I'm sure there are a lot of other people who have very reasonable takes on this case. All right? I'm sure.
Just can't overstate.
I'm sure Tucker Carlson has a really good and nuanced take on this.
So you just can't overstate how great San Francisco is fundamentally. It's just beautiful. And unlike so many cities around the country, which lost their manufacturing base, San Francisco never had one. And instead, it got like $1 trillion in tech money. So you'd think it would be the greatest city in the world, but it's become one of the worst. Someone should figure out how that happened. The whole city. The Rincon neighborhood in San Francisco, one of the richest neighborhoods in the country. Google has a building there. But it's becoming a slum. On Tuesday morning, the founder of the payments program CashApp, Bob Lee, was stabbed to death apparently on the street. Police still don't know who did it.
Oh, and wait, at least we know who did it?
Still don't know who did it.
Oh, we still don't know who did it.
This kind of thing happens, not always to tech executives, of course, but it happens to normal people all the time. You may remember this video from July, shot by a...
It's true. People get stabbed all the time. It's basically like a gigantic stabbing fest every time you, a normal person, go outside.
Man called Richie Wynn. It shows what children in San Francisco have to walk past on their way to school.
Hey, bye, kids. Y'all get home safe, okay? They gotta walk through this shit. Come on, man.
You know, I don't know for a fact that this is where they let a bunch of kids off of a school bus, but I will point out that it was kind of weird that there was just a massive jump cut right here.
Y'all get home safe, okay? They gotta walk through this shit. Come on, man. These little kids gotta walk through this shit. Crazy.
Ricky Wynn is the man who shot that video and has been trying his level best to get people to pay attention to what's happening to his city. He's in San Francisco tonight. He joins us. Ricky, thank you for coming on and for all the noise that you've made about what's going on around you. People seem to be ignoring it. Do you think this murder will wake people up?
I sure hope so. And I just want...
Wait, how would this wake people up, Tucker? Tucker, do you know who did this? Do you have any evidence whatsoever about who did this? Yeah, maybe there should be some kind of affordable housing where these people don't have to sit on the street outside of like I don't know, like where kids are dropped off for school or dropped off to go home. I don't know. Crazy idea though.
I want to send my condolences to the victim's family. You know, it's a horrible tragedy. But I also...
Yeah, he literally called human beings shit for the crime of being poor.
I want to ask the mayor, London Breed, and the governor, Gavin Newsom, how much more anarchy are you going to allow before you put your political pride to the side and take a better look at some of these laws and implementations that you put in place and retract some of them because they're just not working? Californians are tired of being subjected to your social experiments, like defunding the police, like...
Guys, Nope, no spoilers, Paladin. No spoilers. But also, I shit you not, okay? I shit you not. I looked up this guy because I hadn't heard about him before. I'm not making this one up. I'm not making that up. Just, man. Okay.
Trying to legalize illegal drug use with these safe consumption sites and
No, it's
giving
okay,
out
Paladin.
paraphernalia on the streets. I mean, the word travels fast, and within the criminal community and people that are using, and they're flocking here in what I like to call druggy tourism. Now, I don't know the facts of the case or what happened last night, but you know, it just goes to say that when you turn felonies into misdemeanors, people are going to keep pushing that limit on what.
Also, worth noting that this guy is a former drug dealer. Okay.
They can get away with in the city of San Francisco or in any of these democratic controlled places. They're just going to keep continuously to push the envelope on what they can get away with. So it's really disheartening to see, and I'm really broken up about my city being in the shambles that it's in right now, because this situation with this individual dying is just going to make the situation just that much more worse. You have to imagine, Tucker, like you said, all the money that the tech executives and the tech industry had put into San Francisco. Who's going to want to come and do a startup in San Francisco now when
Right.
executives and innovators are getting killed and stabbed in the streets? I mean,
Damn. That's a really good point. Who's gonna want to go to San Francisco when the framing of this entire piece is that the homeless and the poverty-stricken and the those interested in doing drugs are just going to stab you to death in broad daylight, or even in the nighttime. Who's gonna want to go there when clearly this homelessness problem is getting so out of hand?
it's just it's going to further isolate San Francisco and make people leave, and it's really sad to see.
And people are leaving. So you shot that famous video last summer that was, I think, very shocking for people who aren't familiar with the current state of San Francisco. What did local officials say about that video?
It's been total crickets, Tucker. I mean, nothing. They haven't said anything. None of them will respond to me. I tried to run for a seat in the city council for like re-entry councils to like try to, you know, form or at least give my opinion on some of the things that could help rehabilitate some of the people that are struggling with addiction and some of the people that are coming out of incarceration. And I was met with fierce prejudice. And I mean, they called in and just made up total lies about me and got me ran out of City Hall. So this is my only outlet is my phone.
Yeah. Well, I think history will put you in the hero column. So, Ricky Wynn, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, powerful words here, okay? Powerful words. I do think that there's an element of this where you could indict San Francisco for failing its most impoverished citizens. I think that's a fair criticism of San Francisco's local governance. I do have to point out that San Francisco's violent crimes have remained largely untouched over like the past decade. Just as an FYI here, okay? Ignore the graph going down here because that's 2023, which is this year, and doesn't obviously there hasn't been enough time for us to get an idea of where the numbers are, but these are all the violent crimes. Aggravated assault, homicide, rape, Yeah, they've been relatively stagnant over like the last 20 years. That's crazy. You know, but I'm sure that there's someone else with an even better take on this, okay? I'm sure. Janine Pirro, of course. Of course. Let's hear what Janine Pirro has to say through her, what I'm sure is completely sober slurring, okay?
Everyone says that I've spoken to in California says that this is something that has hit us hard. But let's try to figure out how we got here. You've got woke California, woke San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi, Chesa Boudin, who didn't believe in locking up criminals. He believed in letting them go free. And then...
By the way, that's just a lie that they tell every single time a DA institutes cashless bail. Which, by the way, is not everyone we arrest just goes free. It's just, instead of demanding cash payments from people, effectively meaning that the rich for any crime, like any crime for the rich means that they instantly get out of jail. Instead, they determine whether or not someone is a threat to society, to themselves, to their communities, or to any other specific individuals. And if they are not, then they let them go. They also, of course, weigh in other factors like flight risk. But, you know, yeah, they're just letting everyone go. It's like a giant revolving wheel in there. Basically, you get on a giant carousel as they read you your rights, and then it shoots you out the door again.
Mayor London Breed, who cut, I believe it's $120 million out of the police budget. And the police said, if you do so, it will take longer for us to respond to emergencies. Ergo, the 6 minutes it took to respond to Bob Lee as he lay there begging people to help him. You know, London Breed now says she wants to refund the police after she defunded them, as if any of them had a half a...
But by the way, just as some much needed context for the massive cuts to the San Francisco Police Department budget. Oh wow. The budget was cut, but it's still higher than it was like 4 years ago. Wow. Wowee.
Brain and defunding them in the first place. But they've got a lot more to do. You've got to make sure that the people who are being released over and over again...
Yeah, they gave the police department a negative 4% cut.
...are kept in. And until someone defines social justice, I still don't know what it is. To me, I think it means you've got to let criminals out and let victims be subjected to their continuing assault and anarchy.
Yep, that's exactly what cashless bail means. You nailed it. You were a fucking judge. You should understand this basic concept.
But San Francisco, one of the most beautiful cities in the country, the Tenderloin District is now a place where you fornicate, you defecate, you do drugs out in the open, and you live out your mental illness. The people in charge of that city need to be thrown out. I like the new DA. I do like the new DA. I think she's going to make a difference. And but I'm confident that unless they decide to, you know, put the blame where it belongs on the criminal and stop with this social justice nonsense, it's never going to end. And this poor guy, he contributed, Bobby Lee, so much to society, but that society did nothing for him as he showed his injuries to a car that was idling and then begged the police to come and get him.
Okay, yeah. You know, all of these filthy pores out on the streets. Clearly, what we've seen now, right, chat, is that obviously whoever did this was a drug-addled, insane homeless person. Someone who just, beyond having a conscience, came up to Bob Lee and stabbed him to death for no reason, and then disappeared into the night like a force of nature. Okay? Clearly, that is what we are dealing with when we talk about the murder of Bob Lee, except none of that is true, and he was actually killed by a coworker. Mission Local here, breaking the story earlier today that Bob Lee, founder of CashApp, was actually murdered by a fellow tech founder. Yep, we were told that police today were dispatched to Emeryville with a warrant to arrest a man named Nima Momeni. The name and Emeryville address SFPD officers traveled to correspond with this man, the owner of a company called Expand IT. Multiple police sources have described the pre-dawn knifing last week, which left the 43-year-old Lee dead in a deserted section of downtown San Francisco, as neither a robbery attempt nor a random attack. Rather, Lee and Momeni were portrayed by police as being familiar with one another. In the wee hours of April 4th, they were purportedly driving together through downtown San Francisco in a car registered to the suspect. Some manner of confrontation allegedly commenced while both men were in the vehicle, and potentially continued after Lee exited the car. Police allege that Momeni stabbed Lee multiple times with a knife that was recovered not far from the spot on the 300 block of Main Street, to which officers initially responded. Crazy. This scenario would explain in part why Lee was walking through a portion of Main Street in which there's little to no foot traffic at 2:30 in the morning. That was one of several incongruous circumstances surrounding Lee's violent death, which law enforcement sources from the get-go felt made it far from a straightforward or random crime. Damn. But yeah, kind of makes this entire story really, really, really kind of fucked. Because every single person who commented on this stabbing just assumed it was a random, crazy, drug-addled homeless person and used this entire case as an excuse to shit on the homeless. Rather than talking about, hey, how do we actually help homeless people? Rather than do that, it was more, homeless people are a dangerous threat and will try and kill you if they get the chance, which is why we need police officers to keep the barbarians away from the gates. Okay? It's just absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. So the conservative bandwagon jump on anarchy in San Francisco is wrong. Who would have thunk it? Yeah, it's almost like they lie every single time. You guys remember back a while back, people were talking about how Walgreens was just encountering too many losses in San Francisco, and so they were having to close all of their locations in San Francisco because there were too many petty crimes, making it impossible to do business in the city. And then it turns out, well, actually, there was nowhere near enough petty crime to actually make any of these places unprofitable. Walgreens was just redistributing their business strategy. Also, worth pointing out here, hey, wow, here's a neighbor of the suspected murderer. Let's listen to this interview.
Outgoing, very sweet, down-to-earth, seemingly very professional gentleman. This is a complete shock to all of us in the building. He's very welcoming, very kind, he's a good neighbor. So what he's accused of is a shock to all of us because he's such a nice fellow, and we all hope that it's not true, but we'll wait and see what happens in the justice system because that's how it goes. But it's a shocker. The last time I saw him was probably about a month ago when I met him for the first time, and his door was open and he...
Wait, you only knew this guy for a month and you're like saying so many nice things about him? Oh, he was a very nice man. He was a very nice man. I've only known him less than a month, but he was very, very nice.
He welcomed us into the building and welcomed our agency, gave us his business cards and said, if you ever need IT help, let me know.
And he lived alone, do you know?
To my knowledge, he lived alone, yes. Like everybody else in San Francisco, we were shocked by the murder because there's been
He sounds like a more professional version of Yogi Bear.
so much violence in San Francisco and Oakland as well. So it's even...
Oh my god, Gamer G! Brain blast! I don't know who made that comment first, if it was you or me, but like, holy shit.
More shocking to find out that your neighbor is accused of the murder.
Hey, Sweet Myths. Yeah, also, apparently this interview went on for a bit longer, and the suspected murderer, like, was trying to get this guy to go on a trip with him to, like, Colombia. Like, it got weirdly pushy about it. Look, I don't know, but I think what we do know is that we need to make sure to crack down on all of these violent tech billionaires, okay? These tech millionaires, they've had it too good, okay? Whatever crackdowns were planned for homeless people, we need to crack down on the tech millionaires 10 times harder for the safety of all the people in San Francisco. All right? Was he hiding in a picnic basket? Who knows? It's really fucking weird, though, when, like, the police in San Francisco have been putting out consistent messaging on this, and right-wingers just do not give a shit. They'd much prefer to come up with their own theories about how a crazy homeless person killed this billionaire instead of, you know, what actually might have happened. What actually happened. Okay, here we go.
This is more about human nature and human behavior than it is about our city. You take this out of San Francisco, they knew each other. You put it in another city, and I'm not going to name any other city because I don't want to do that to any other city, but just put it in any other city. I don't believe it would have changed the circumstances one bit. This is not about San Francisco. It happened in San Francisco, and that is unfortunate. It's even more of a tragedy that it happened at all, but this speaks to more about human nature. Facts show and research shows that most people who commit homicides know the people that they kill. The research shows that. So, you know, I do understand, you know, how people see and view things. I see it, I read it, I live here just like a lot of you all. But this has nothing to do with San Francisco. This has to do with human nature. This is more about human nature.
Like, God, most emotionally intelligent cop right there. Yeah, like I'm a bit suspicious. I'm a bit suspicious. He sounds in touch. He sounds like he goes to therapy. What the hell? Yeah.